All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. If you would, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials, grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Riska, can we please have the roll call?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Zarowski?
Here.
Ms. Kosky?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Present.
Schmidt?
Present.
Yanes?
Here.
Yarko?
Present.
Council, we need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Kosky.
move to approve the agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First item on our agenda tonight is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I wanted to begin by reminding everyone that on Wednesday, September 18th, we will host a town hall meeting to discuss all things recycling. The City Council recently adopted an ordinance to accommodate recycling in multifamily complexes. So we want to make sure that the residents in those complexes and the management teams are informed of the changes. In addition, the second part of that forum will be dedicated to residents to make sure that they fully understand the do's and don'ts of recycling. And so far, it is going very well in the city with our universal curbside recycling program. But on the 18th, if you have any questions or concerns, you can come to this town hall forum at Public Works Department. That's at 7200 18 Mile Road between 4 and 6. Now, again, between 4 and 5, we'll be devoting that section to multifamily complexes and 5 to 6 to residences, so you can plan accordingly. And also, I wanted to remind everyone that the State of the City, that is hosted by none other than Mayor Taylor, will be on Friday, September 27th. And this event draws elected officials, business leaders, and residents every year. It's very popular. It includes a breakfast beginning at 8 a.m. So if you're interested in attending, you can go to Connect Macomb, our chamber, and register there and get all the information that you need. The program starts at 8:30. And Mayor and Council, you've heard a lot about our highly successful internship program. Suffice it to say, and I think you're all as proud as I am over this fact, the city of Sterling Heights has one of the best internship programs in the business. In any given year, we have 20 plus interns. They work in various disciplines all across the organization. They're a huge benefit to all of our departments, and they have a meaningful learning experience. And there are times that some of our interns return to our city. They get hired in full-time positions, and some of them rise through the ranks. Some of our directors right now started as an intern in Sterling Heights. It's a long-standing program. It's been incredibly successful. Other cities use it as a model, and this evening, we're going to be talking about an extension of that internship program, a program that we're very proud of, the first ever in Macomb County, centered on adaptive learning experiences through meaningful internships with our city, specifically our Parks and Recreation Department. We're super proud of this program. It's very interesting. I know you'll find it interesting. And leading this discussion will be our recreation specialist, Becca Lynn.
Good evening. Well, thank you for those kind words. Good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of City Council, Mr. Vanderpool, and members of the public. My name is Becca Lynn. I'm the Adaptive Recreation Specialist for the city's Parks and Recreation Department. And with me, I have some wonderful individuals from Utica Community Schools. We are pleased to be here today to speak about a very exciting program that we're partnering on called Project Search. To provide some background, Project Search is a school-to-work transition program designed for young people with intellectual or developmental disabilities. This program originated at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. The director of the Children's Emergency Department at the time felt that because the hospital served individuals with varying abilities and disabilities, that they should also employ people with, varying abilities and disabilities. The goal was to fill the entry-level positions that had high turnover rates with people who looked like the individuals the hospital served. This idea was presented to the special education director at the nearby Great Oaks Career Campus, and the partnership was instantaneous. Together, the two organizations launched the first Project Search site at Cincinnati Children's Hospital in 1996. Since its inception, Project Search has grown to 734 sites in 48 states and 10 countries across the globe. The Project Search model involves an extensive period of skills training and career development via internships, innovative adaptations, long-term job coaching, and constant feedback from special education teachers, parapros, business people, everybody involved. So they're always getting that feedback on how to grow and develop their skills. Many students who are enrolled in special education classes often engage in work-based learning as a part of their traditional school experience. They'll go to off-site locations and perform support tasks during their school day. Project Search is unique, however, as in the fact that it is a business-led employment planning program that takes place entirely at the workplace, encouraging total immersion. Similar to Cincinnati Children's Hospital, the City of Sterling Heights has proudly served its community members with disabilities for many years. From inclusive events to adaptive recreation programs to accessible parks and facilities, the city has prioritized the well-being and quality of life of the special needs population. Project Search will help further that initiative and further our recently adopted DEI journey by embracing the diverse abilities within our community and welcoming them into our workplace and organization. Utica Community Schools approached the Parks and Recreation Department of February of 2023 with the idea of Project Search. Now, we're very fortunate to have such a solid, long-standing relationship with the school district, so partnering on this program was, I'll say, relatively seamless. There were hoops to jump through and conversations to be had, but after a year and a half of conversations, we are pleased to announce that we launched our site last week, making it the first site in Macomb County. The Sterling Heights Parks and Recreation Department, while we're proud to be the host business for this new site, we could not do it alone. It truly is and will continue to be a team effort. As the host business, we have agreed to provide 3 10-week internships within the Parks and Recreation Department. So 2 interns will rotate through internships at the community center. There will be 2 at the senior center and 2 with our parks team. They'll engage in the 10-week internship, have a transition week in between to kind of touch base, see how things are going, and then they'll rotate off to the next location. The interns will have the opportunity to gain hands-on experience in a range of responsibilities, including but not limited to clerical support, customer service, building setup and maintenance, and park maintenance. Hopefully, these tasks and responsibilities will lead them to competitive, sustainable, and integrated employment. That is the ultimate goal of Project Search. We, as the host business, have also agreed to provide a training space for the interns. The intern hub, as we're calling it, will be housed at the amphitheater. We have also agreed to provide various staff members throughout the department to provide support, including myself as the business liaison overseeing the program. Project Search provides the curriculum for the students to engage in. Michigan Rehabilitation Services will provide skills training and job development. Always Care Services has provided a skills trainer who is on site every day to support the interns through their internships and job search. And finally, Utica Community Schools has supplied the classroom materials and wonderful staff members, including an instructor and paraprofessional who are also on site every day, to support and guide the interns as needed. The guidance and support from these dedicated mentors will ensure the interns have the tools and resources needed to succeed in their roles while helping them develop valuable transferable skills to succeed and prepare for future employment opportunities that align with their goals. Now I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Flessa, who is the Supervisor for Special Services from Utica Community Schools, to talk a little bit about their side of the operation.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, Council, women and men. Thank you for having us. This is a very exciting moment for our district, for the city. Becca Lynn asked me to come up and speak as to why I selected the city of Sterling Heights, why I approached them in February of '23. I grew up in the city of Sterling Heights. I went to Plumbrook, Davis, and Stevenson. I danced in the community. I played softball. I played soccer. I played tennis. I swam. I did all kinds of things. And my first 6 jobs were in the city of Sterling Heights. And as I was driving around, truly driving around looking for a host business to approach with this idea, I drove right into your community center and walked in the door. And I was at Stevenson that day, and I thought, why not? I'm just going to go in there and see if somebody will listen. And then I met Becca. And we've been buddies ever since. But without Becca and Kyle, the team, it's an amazing team. We've joined, I mean, I feel like we really do work together. It's ongoing, and it's a wonderful experience for our students, our district, the city. I can't wait to see what our interns, they're not students, they are interns, what they will be doing for the city. And our ultimate goal is to continue to grow it. I mean, the city is just a hub of wealth of opportunity, and I would love to see our Utica school interns graduate not only from Utica schools, but from this internship with 100% employment from our interns. So I want to thank all of you for this opportunity, and I'm hoping to be here for a while with them. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So as mentioned, since last February, when this idea came to be, we have undergone thorough assessments, planning sessions, professional development, and intern selection, which was a huge part. The interns had to apply for the program. They had to undergo a skills assessment day with workstations, a working interview of sorts, and they had to engage in a formal interview. And then ultimately, they had to remain in good standing for the remainder of the 23-24 school year to secure their spot in this program. I can say with confidence that we got a great group of interns for the first year. They are excited to be here and eager to learn. We couldn't ask for more. But even better, they have a wonderful instructor who is dedicated to the success of this program. So I would now like to introduce Christy Petrus, the Project Search instructor, to talk about her interns and introduce them.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here, and I appreciate you guys taking the time and the opportunity to meet with us and let us introduce ourselves. I am a Utica graduate. I also went to Stevenson High School, and the last 5 years I've taught at Stevenson High School in the work training for students with special needs. When approached about this amazing opportunity to be the intern teacher, I was like, how do I sign up? Because we need to get this involved, and we need to get people involved in Sterling Heights. And so finishing our first week last week of school, as we called our internships, we're also learning that we're not in school anymore, we're in the workforce. And so that's been a big switch and a big shift for all of us to kind of understand that we're growing up, right? We're gonna do this, and we're gonna be good individuals, right, and citizens? Yeah. So I think they're a little nervous too, but I'm gonna have you stand up so I can introduce you guys. We do have 6 interns. 2 of them could not be here tonight. Yep, if you guys wanna come right here. You good?
My name's Nick. It's very nice to try this out. It's a new beginning, I guess.
Awesome. So this is Nick DeShutter, and then we have Marcus Barker.
Yes, I'm Marcus Barker. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too, Marcus.
And then we have Ethan Williams next to him.
Hi, I'm Eden Williams.
Hi, Ethan.
And then next to him, we have Nino Bomarito.
I'm Nino Bomarito. Nice to meet all you guys.
Nice to meet you.
You know.
So we're excited. We have 3 weeks right now that we are doing in-class work to kind of get an idea of what we're going to be doing. And then after these 3 weeks, we're going to start into our internships throughout the city. So we're hoping to start this year and keep growing as our years continue and get bigger and bigger. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, really quick closing comment, and I'm sure you can tell by the nerves, but also the smiles on the faces. We are all very excited for this program. While I'm sure we still have many learning experiences to undergo since it's our first year, the expectation is that Project Search will bring success to everybody involved. We are looking forward to the growth and development of both our interns and the program as a whole, and we'll be sure to continue sharing the story as the year goes on. Thank you so much for your time this evening and your consideration and your support of this program. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Okay, council, anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to make?
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you. I'm just so excited and proud of you fellas. I just think this is a wonderful opportunity, not only for you, but for all of us. And I know you're going to do an awesome job, and you have your teacher and your para that's going to be with you, and our staff are amazing over there, and I think this is just the perfect opportunity and the perfect relationship, and I wish you guys the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Mrs. Sarowski.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. And following right behind Mrs. Schmidt, because I know that she works as a parapro in the education system. I'm a nurse, but I do a lot of education and caring for people that have different abilities in my role. And it's so wonderful to have that opportunity in the city to have you guys come and help us. Well, we're going to learn just as much from you, I think, as that you're going to learn from us. And I really am excited to see what we learn from you. And I even saw something in a nursing magazine that we're trialing a nurse who's in a wheelchair. So the things that we can learn from people who are otherly abled and have different experiences and unique experiences is a wonderful thing for the world. And I'm excited to have you with us. And we, as your teacher, Ms. Christie said, to grow this experience and to have everyone share and learn and see what everyone can bring to the table is a blessing and an honor. And you guys, I'm just excited to have you with us. So thank you for being here. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Mrs. Konski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rebecca, this program is just fantastic. I have a couple questions, though. You said it's a 10-week program.
Yes, so the interns will undergo a 10-week internship, and then they have a transition week. And then, so overall, it will be from now until May. It's an entire school year that they'll be with us, but the internships are broken down into 10-week kind of sections, and then they rotate throughout.
So it's more than 10 weeks total.
Yes, more than 10 weeks total. It's a full calendar school year.
What grade do they have to be in order to participate in this program?
Absolutely. So Project Search, they have a variety of program structure. Sometimes it's high school students, sometimes it's post-secondary. All of our interns are coming from the UConnect program within Utica Community Schools. So it's post-secondary students ages 18 to 26.
My grandson went to Stevenson, and he participated in a program similar to this.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to say it worked because he has a job now. He graduated, and he is working, and he's becoming very, very independent.
Well, that's
So,
the
great
goal.
work.
We're excited.
I support what you're doing, and I would like you to grow that program because it's desperately needed.
I appreciate those kind words. Thank you. We're very excited.
Mrs. Zarko.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. First of all, I have to agree with my colleagues. I think this is a fantastic idea. I think it's great that you chose us, and thank you so much for stopping into the community center and taking that chance, because as you can see, they welcomed you probably with open arms, and it was great. But I do have a question. Are these paid internships for these young men?
These young men and women, we do have one
Okay.
young woman joining us. They are donating their time in kind. So it is a total learning experience for them. It is at no cost to the city.
Okay, well, it would be nice that, if they did get a job someday, so that we could pay them back for all the volunteer hours that they're putting in.
Exactly,
And that was my other question, is if there were any, females that were in this program, and so.
Yes.
And I guess that I was glad how it was explained, how you could be a participant in the program, because I'm sure there's parents out there, there's kids out there that are watching, they're thinking, I would really like to do this, and how can I get involved? And I guess the other, comment that I'd like to make is that if you're trying to partner up interns with businesses, we have connections in the business world that might be able to help you there too. So if you want to look for more businesses, we might be able to lead you in the right direction so that you can expand this program for other students and interns.
That would be great. One of, kind of going off that note, just to share some more information, one of the goals is, or the ultimate goal is employment at the end of their internship, whether that is within the host business or, out in the community. So we will start marketing these interns to hopefully find them employment that aligns with their goals. So that's
And
great
we
to know.
do have businesses that will help people get job placement after a program like this. So if we can help in any way by steering you in the right direction, we'd be happy to do that. So Nico, Ethan, Marcus, and Nick, welcome to the city of Sterling Heights.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to welcome you all, so Barb stole my thunder. But welcome to the city of Sterling Heights. I can see all of your parents back there, and they are smiling. They're so very proud of you for participating in this program. I think this is going to do wonders for you. I want to welcome you here. The city is a great place to work, and we're going to work hard to hopefully find places for all of you. I commend you for doing this. This is going to be a tremendous learning experience for all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful time. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else? Mr. Yanez?
I have to now. I want to. First of all, Becca, I want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for allowing this person to walk into your door and giving her the time, because you look at the results. And I just want to follow up with what Councilman Radke said. Every parent wants their child to grow and prosper, and this is a great opportunity, not only for the young men and women who are involved in this program, but certainly for their families as well. And so I'm very excited to have these folks here. I think, as you know, I sit on the board for the Autism Society. It's a great passion of mine, and I know these young men and young women will succeed and do their families proud. So good luck to all of you, and we look forward to getting an update, too, on how everybody did. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Yanez. So, Becca, so help me understand, and I'm sorry, what was your name again? Michelle. So Michelle comes into the office, asks to talk to somebody. It was you that ends up talking to her. And then, was it Kyle that was like, okay, this is your program, just run with it or something? Is that sort of how it happened?
So Michelle actually reached out to Kyle directly, but with my background, I am a certified therapeutic recreation specialist. I've worked with special needs individuals for my entire career. He was like, that's a good fit. Here
Yeah.
you go. Take it and run with it. So that's what I did.
Well, good.
And I'm happy to be here.
I think Kyle's a very good Parks and Rec director, and part of it is because he knows how to connect people like you to this sort of program. Becca, great presentation. I thank you for the work you're doing, and it sounds like a lot of planning went into it. And, I'm confident that whenever we take on a project like this, we do a supreme amount of planning to make sure that we get it right, and I'm confident that we will get it right. So good luck to you, and thank you for what you're doing. To the staff here that helped bring this program to the city of Sterling Heights, thank you as well, and the parents as well. And to you guys, I just want to welcome you aboard. You are now officially part of the city of Sterling Heights family. I think it'll be an interesting time for you. I have the ability to serve both as the mayor of Sterling Heights and work in the private sector. Okay, so I see sort of both sides of it. And I've said this to other employees and to police officers and firefighters and you name it. There's really something special about working in government, and particularly in local government, because this is to me what matters most to the people. People live in the city of Sterling Heights, they work in the city of Sterling Heights, they spend their time in the city of Sterling Heights, And what do they want to do? They want to go to Dodge Park. They want to go to the farmer's market. They want to go to the community center. This is their tax dollars at work. This is where they live. There's nothing more important, as far as I'm concerned, than the work that local government does for the residents that it serves. And you guys are a part of that. So congratulations to you. Welcome to the city of Sterling Heights. I hope you guys get a lot out of it. I hope you learn a lot. I hope you contribute as much as you can. And I hope that when Becca was talking about ultimately, developing some skills here, and the skills will be transferable to other jobs if you want other jobs. But we hope that you'll consider working in local government here in the city of Sterling Heights or another local government. I think you're going to find that this is an incredibly rewarding career path. It's, government a lot of times gets a bad rap, and, certainly politics is sort of a dirty word to some people. But what you're doing is directly serving the people of Sterling Heights and the guests that come here. And you're doing it in one of the best, if not the best, parks and recreation departments in the state of Michigan. So you guys have a tremendous opportunity. Make your mark, do your best, and we thank you for your contribution. So if we could, one more big round of applause for these young men. Thank you again, Becca. Thank you. Mr. Vanderpool.
And Mayor, just a concluding comment on my part. This program illustrates the importance of our diversity, equity, and inclusion crusade. It is multifaceted, and this program is a big part of it. It also illustrates the importance of collaboration. Really proud of our relationships with our school districts, and tonight Utica Community Schools. We work closely with them every week on various projects. And I also wanted to thank Miss Lynn. She does amazing work every day, and we're lucky to have her. And nothing else could top that item on my report, so that concludes my report. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Well, good news is we have the consent agenda coming up, and we'll see if that can top it. But yeah, thank you again, guys, and thank you to UCS, if I didn't say that. UCS is a great partner. I have 3 kids at UCS, 3 kids at 3 different schools, and so really just love the work that you guys are doing. All right, we will move on to the next item on our agenda tonight, which is the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? All right. Give them a second to clear out, but I don't think I see anybody, so Mrs. Koski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is a consideration item, and this is to consider approval of a First Amendment to stipulated, amended, and restated consent judgment in the case Vestovich et al. V. City of Sterling Heights, Macomb County Circuit Court, case number 2007-2424CE. We have a presentation from Sean Keenan, our Assistant City Planner. Mr. Keenan.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, members of the City Council, Mr. Vanderpool and Mr. Koszubski. Going back in 2007, an original lawsuit was filed for a parcel located at the southwest corner of 19 and Mound to build a gas station with a convenience store and 2 office centers. This is the location of the subject site. After it was approved, it never got developed. It was stalled for about 13 years until the current owner purchased it from the original applicant. At that time, the new owner had amended the consent judgment to allow for the gas station. There's a pointer. The gas station convenience store to add that to it, another unit that could be occupied by a coffee store or a restaurant. It also, instead of having 2 offices, it changed and allowed for 1 office building that's still on 19 Mile Road, as well as a retail building off of Mound Road. It also, again, include the fuel pumps. This is a picture that was taken today of the existing building. This is the existing convenience store and gas station. The end unit is where the proposed Dairy Queen is going to go. And then in the far background is the existing retail building that's being developed. So far, everything looks wonderful. This is one of the best gas stations at any of our corners right now. And Mr. Fox will go on to explain what is being proposed amendments to the current consent judgment.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the proposed changes. This would be to allow a Dairy Queen with a drive-through to occupy a vacant unit at 5812 19 Mile Road would be the official address. Its hours of operation, it has 2 sets of hours of operation depending on the year, from November 1st to March 31st. The hours would be 10 a.m. through 9 p.m., Sunday through Thursday, and then staying open a half an hour later, Friday and Saturday. And then from April 1st to October 31st, the hours would be from 10 to 10, Sunday through Saturday, so that's every day of the week. The Dairy Queen would provide 8 sit-down spaces in order to accommodate folks that would like to dine inside. Looking at the dimensional changes to the consent judgment, with the addition of a outdoor storage structure or freezer, which we'll get to later with some site plans. We have a 260 square foot freezer that would be screened on 3 sides, north, south, and west, by a 12-foot, 4-inch tall enclosure that matches the facade of the existing building. The existing building would screen it from the east. It would be completely hidden behind there. Again, I'll show that later in a site plan. Any removed landscaping from that site, which I believe consisted of a few trees and 2 shrubs, would be relocated to a different part of the site in order to maintain the current planting counts, so we're not losing out on any plantings there. The internal floor plan of the site was also changed. The Dairy Queen would be occupying 1,240 square feet, with a convenience store occupying 5,920 square feet. Overview of the proposed landscape changes. The applicant did propose planting 7 additional Norwegian spruce trees in order to fill gaps in the screening currently between phase 2 and the neighboring residential properties. That landscaping would be removed and relocated to the already approved plan once construction on phase 2 begins. This is essentially sort of act as a stopgap between phase 1 and phase 2 to make sure those residents are properly screened. This is the existing layout of the site. As you can see, we have the truck turn lanes are highlighted here in green, access onto 19 Mile and Mound Road here. This is the building in question with the convenience store, gas station section on the north part, and then the southern unit being the drive-through unit. You can see this drive-through lane coming through the back as well, exiting towards Mound. And then the retail building that will not be touched by this particular amendment to the south. And this kind of demonstrates where the storage structure would be located at. So as you can see, it would be behind the proposed Dairy Queen suite. It is screened obviously to the east by the existing building. It's also partially screened to the north by the existing dumpster enclosure. And then you would have the wall enclosing on the 3 sides. They did angle that wall to maintain visibility as the drive-through was coming through, which is why it's not a perfect square. This is what the enclosure looks like in terms of facade. It is brick that would match the existing building, and you do see that it does completely conceal the refrigeration unit that would be inside. You can also see in this image here how there's sort of a wall here and a wall here. It would be a refrigeration and then a frozen section in the freezer, to my understanding. And then here is a better look to where it fits in with the floor plan. As you can see, here's the Red Barn Market, which currently does exist at the site. Increasing by about 400 square feet with this proposal. The Dairy Queen tenant space occupying 1,240 square feet. And then the proposed outdoor storage structure here. You can see very quick access between the back door and the, retrieving the ice cream. And then here is a layout of the area in which the 7 additional screening trees would be placed. They would be placed strategically to fill existing gaps. So that way, if there's any holes in the existing tree line, we'd be able to plug those up. And like I said, those would be relocated once phase 2 construction begins. As you can kind of see phase 2 here on this side of the line, that is the office building that would be constructed. And with that, we'll take any questions the council has.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll go to the audience. Is there anybody who'd like to comment on this item? Yes, sir. Come up to the podium if you don't mind.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Laszlo Hideg. I've been a resident of Sterling Heights for over 30 years. My son just recently purchased a home which is directly south of that area, over there at 5795 Hinedale. It looks like with the enclosures and the external condensers, we should be pretty good on noise. The compressors, I suspect, are inside, right? Inside the enclosure?
Yes, they would be inside the enclosure. I believe that's
Okay.
the devices that are at the top
Okay,
here.
so I've seen similar structures. I think you know about Screamers. It's a little bit farther north on the east side of Mound Road. So they have a similar facility, though somewhat smaller. So we're not looking at any big issues in terms of decibels or anything of that nature.
So, sir, just to be clear, your comments need to be directed to me and the
I'm
council.
sorry, I
and-
apologize.
And you can ask these questions, and then they'll take notes and they'll answer
Okay.
your questions, though.
Very well, thank you. So I was just wondering about the decibel levels that would occur. Granted, they have the enclosure, the blind that goes around it, and the compressors shouldn't be, I'm sorry, it's just the condensers that are outside, so I just want to be certain that we don't have any decibel problems, because right at the back of my son's home, we see the retail space, but the refrigeration unit will be a little farther down, but noise is noise, and so I just want to be certain that there wouldn't be any additional noise in the area. But otherwise, it looks like, I've driven by the construction site as it stands, and it seems like it's properly constructed with the adjacent residents in mind, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll
All right.
get those questions answered. Anyone else on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Sarowski.
Resolved to approve the First Amendment to stipulated, amended, and restated consent judgment in the case Vestevich et al. Versus the City of Sterling Heights, Macomb County Circuit Court Case Number 072424CE, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign all documents required in conjunction with this approval.
Support.
It's been moved in, supported. Any discussion? Mrs. Sarowski?
Yes, Mayor Taylor. Actually, some of my questions were exactly the questions that our esteemed resident had questions as well. So if you could, I would like to go through the mayor to our city planner, maybe Mr. Fox or Mr. Sheenan. Could you, or Keenan, excuse me, as far as the condenser decibel question and with the refrigeration unit, because my questions were noise, compressor, how noisy would this compressor with the refrigeration unit be?
Currently, I don't have the decibel levels of the units that's being installed. However, if there's any type of nuisance problems, the Office of Planning would notify the owners of the Dairy Queen to have them address it to come into compliance with the city's nuisance mitigation ordinance.
Okay. So as far as we know at this time, usually a condenser is on top of this, so at this time, the condenser would be on top of the refrigeration unit, is that my understanding?
Yep.
And then, but as far as the decibel unit, it should be contained within the ordinance. So does that help answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add, as you can see, I don't know if it could be brought back up on the screen. The outline of the unit, the wall looks like it extends about 6 inches to a foot above the condenser.
That would help screen that sound then, too.
The screen. So, I mean, it's a masonry wall. Plus, to the south, you also have the retail building as well. I don't know the exact distance from this enclosure to the south property line, but I would have to, it's a fairly long distance and stuff. So there's a number of different sound barrier structures that are within place.
Okay. And it looks like it's obviously a newer design, or
Yes.
it's a new construction certainly, but a newer design to
Correct.
that as well. All right, and that was really my biggest question, so that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Anyone else?
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Keenan, I don't see the petitioner's not here, correct?
I do not believe they are here.
Okay. That's unfortunate, because I'm wondering, the retail center that's being built, are there tenants for that? Do you know?
When I drove by today, I did not see any cars in the parking lot.
I can take that.
Oh, go ahead.
We did have a use permit submitted for that retail center. I believe it's physical therapy, if I remember correctly. So I do believe there is a medical use going into that.
Okay, that's great, that's,
I think it's in the most northernmost unit as well, closest to where this would be.
okay, and also, is there, provisions for any outside seating?
Currently in the consent judgment, there will not be any outdoor seating. There was discussion of that originally. We do have our process in which the planning commission approves a nuisance mitigation plan. The applicant indicated they didn't want to pursue that at this time, so the door is open, but they would have to go through some administrative and public hearings in order to make that happen, so.
Okay, I have nothing further, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt. Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too wish the petitioner was here because I'd like to ask them some questions. I always find it interesting when people ask us to do things and then choose not to show up and have answer questions by the council. I have two questions that I wish I could have answered. I'm curious about the change in hours for the different seasons. Why not just approve 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and if they want to close early, they can instead of making it a month-to-month thing? It doesn't make sense to me why we'd write that into a regulation. You know, I can't stop a business owner from opening early or closing early, but I can stop them from closing late, essentially. I don't understand why we're doing that. I'm curious about the decibel of the refrigerator, and I'm curious about why what the process would be for moving these trees, and why not just leave them in place as an addition to the landscaping plan, seeing how we're adding a freezer that wasn't a part of the original consent judgment. But I can't ask these questions to the petitioner because they're not here. So, I find it very frustrating because I'm being asked to vote with like a one-sided thing. I'm curious if we should, I'll just posit this, we should postpone this to another date because I'd like to ask these questions to the petitioner and I find it frustrating that they're not here. That's all I have at this time, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else? Mrs. Zarko?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Let's see, through the chair to who'd ever like to answer me. First of all, is this Dairy Queen a corporate owner or a franchisee owner? Anybody can answer.
I believe it's a franchisee.
You know, it's okay, it's a franchisee. Okay, and was the drive-through part of the conditions of the consent judgment?
Yeah, I believe that was part of the original
Okay, just to
amendment that Mr. Keenan got to, yeah, here it was.
And I just want to clarify that for residents or anybody that's listening, that was part of the consent agenda.
Correct.
Consent judgment. Okay, now will the Dairy Queen, it says indoor and drive-through service. Will the Dairy Queen have access through the gas station convenience store?
Yes, I believe the internal floor plan actually shows that they'll be sharing a restroom.
They'll be sharing a restroom. Will they be able to walk from the convenience store to the Dairy Queen then?
Yes, that's required per the Michigan Building Code.
Okay. And nothing further. And I guess we all know that we are noise sensitive in Sterling Heights. So it would be interesting to see what it would sound like, but it seems like there's a lot of provisions in place, but it still doesn't tell us what we could do is if it exceeds somebody else's, you know, it's an inconvenience for somebody else to listen to that going on and off and on and off. So I wouldn't be opposed to waiting until we could talk to the petitioner for this.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Zarko.
Nothing further?
Mr. Yanez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to the city manager, Mr. Vanderpool, I'm quite positive we have, some department has a decibel meter to measure sound. Would you, do you know that? Or, I mean, I'm sure we have one. Engineering has one, planning has one, DPW, somebody in the city has one of those meters. Do you know if that's true or not?
Mr. Vanderpool?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Yanez, I'm quite certain we still have that ability, but there are other means to validate the decibel level too. And we'll review the specs again and make sure that they meet our ordinance. But the answer to your question is yes, we can certainly validate the decibel level.
Yeah, if we could just make a commitment to the citizen out there to go out. Is this through the chair to our planning department. Has this been installed yet? Or,
The unit hasn't, to my understanding, has not
okay,
been
because
installed.
the Dairy Queen's not even there yet, right? They still have to build it, right? Is that correct? The sign's up? Well, anyways,
The
it's
Dairy
not
Queen
there.
is not
Can we make a commitment to the citizen that we'll have someone from the city go out there once the thing is up and running and measure the sound level from their backyard? I'd appreciate that. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yanez. Mrs. Johnson.
Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to agree with my colleagues. Past practice has been that if the petitioner does not show up for their issue, we would postpone it because there are questions that we want to ask. And if they're really interested, they should find a way to be present or send a representative. And with that not being done, I think I would be in favor of postponing this until he or she is able to attend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Koski. Mr. Kaszubski, I mean, the petitioner here, is it just to be clear, I mean, I think the questions that council has would be directed towards the franchisee, right? But is the franchisee the petitioner here, or is it the property owner? Mr.
It's the property owner would be the petitioner with, obviously Dairy Queen has an interest in how this turns out.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to be clear, by my count, we have at least 3 members who want a postponement. So if we're going to postpone it, I think the message has to be that we need, I guess you guys are the ones that are requesting it. You want to make sure that the franchisee is here and the landowner, or both, or neither, or what?
Whoever can speak on their behalf, because I guess there's questions about, just to speak out, there's questions about decibel level and questions about how the property will be screened, so I'd say both.
Okay. Can you send that message that,
Yes, we'll have them provide those decibel levels of the unit, as well as address the screening issue as well as I believe you were mentioning also the hours of operation.
yeah, and they might want to be here in person.
Correct, yes, yes.
Anybody.
That'd be the number one request.
Okay, do you guys, how long do you want to give them? Mr. Radke, you brought it up, so I'll ask you if you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess through the chair to
Next meeting?
Mr. Vanderpool, is the next meeting okay for this? And I move to postpone to, what is the date of the next meeting?
17th.
The September 17th council meeting?
Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0 vote, postponed to September 17th. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, next up is another consideration item. This is to consider approval of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Sterling Heights and local number 1557 of the International Association of Firefighters. We have a presentation from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. It goes without saying that the mayor, city council, administration, and the Sterling Heights Fire Department are committed to the highest standards of fire suppression, emergency medical services, and fire prevention. Our fire department has one of the best reputations in the state and the country for being a top-tier department. The current fiscal year budget, that's fiscal year 2025, provides for the creation of a community risk reduction officer within the fire prevention division of the fire department. Before I get into the details of the position, I'd like to illustrate before you in a graph the composition of the current fire prevention division and just show you how it ranks in comparison to other communities. So you can see, as I mentioned, we are always in the spirit of continuous improvement, making sure that we're addressing the needs of the community in the most proactive way and according to best practices. And with this position, when you look at our comparable communities, we rank at the top. We will have 5 inspectors plus the fire marshal and this new position. The next closest community that compares to us is on equal footing. In this case is Grand Rapids, and you can see on down the list. These are the 10 comparable communities that we use across the region on many different metrics. You've seen this list countless times before throughout the budget process too. But then we also thought it was meaningful to take a look at surrounding communities. They aren't necessarily all comparables, but nevertheless important. Clinton Township, for example, a large community, over 100,000, has only 2 positions devoted to fire prevention. East Point, and on down the list, far less than Sterling Heights. So even without this position, we're committed to safety in the city, but with this position, we're trying to take it to another level. So let me continue on with what's behind the position. So the Community Risk Reduction Officer will become a key leader within the Fire Prevention Division under the direction of the Fire Marshal. The Risk Reduction Officer is principally tasked with making Sterling Heights safer by identifying the risks to the community health and safety and developing an overall community risk reduction plan. This risk identification and mitigation process will be data-driven and also research-driven. To achieve this ultimate objective, the Risk Reduction Officer will work with city personnel as well as stakeholders throughout the community, the region, and even at the state level to implement programs for the entire community. The Risk Reduction Officer will address on a micro level the high hazard occupancy uses, including facilities that are classified as hazardous material sites, better known as 302 sites, ensure compliance with state and federal right-to-know laws, chemical processing plants, and facilities with special processes such as spraying or dipping and high-piled storage. The position will perform technical inspections of facilities, so they will be a certified inspector, along with high-hazard occupancy uses, as I mentioned. Community education on best practices for fire prevention, sprinkler systems, smoke detectors, and other risk reduction topics will be a point of emphasis for this new position. Outreach to healthcare and senior living facilities, we've accomplished a lot in that regard, will continue and to the extent possible be heightened with this position, along with industrial, commercial, mercantile settings, and so on. So it's a broad-based position and highly collaborative with many, many different stakeholders. And also importantly, the Risk Reduction Officer job classification will present a professional development pathway to becoming the next fire marshal, one of the most critical leadership positions within the fire department. The Human Resources Division has negotiated the attached memorandum of understanding that's before you this evening to create this position, along with the International Association of Firefighters. I want to extend my appreciation to the entire negotiating team, especially Union President Ryan Sears, for his dedication in moving the process forward, knowing the importance of this new and exciting position. Special thanks to our 2 assistant chiefs, including Sean Allen, who's with us this evening, also Mike Amermino, who couldn't be here, along with our Human Resources Manager, Kate Baldwin, for their good work analyzing the appropriate structure of this position and how it fits into the division. Any of the team members present this evening will be able to address any additional questions from the Mayor and City Council. And with all this in mind, I respectfully request the Mayor and City Council approval of the MOU before you this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Anybody in the audience have any comments? Not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Zerko.
resolve to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Sterling Heights and local number 1557 of the International Association of Firefighters for the purpose of creating the new Community Risk Reduction officer job classification, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign the memorandum on behalf of the city.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Zarko?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Taylor. First of all, I think that in our budget discussions and in some of our strategic planning, that we've realized that we need more leadership positions in all of our departments, because it goes without saying that we are not top-heavy, that some of the directors and the managers that we have in place right now are doing double duty in so many areas. This new position will probably have a different job description than what's been in place before, and I see it as moving the fire department in another direction to keep up with times. And what happened 20 years ago is not the same thing or the same city that we were 20 years ago. So the incidents are different. There's more things that you worry about, more things that have to be taken care of. And I think that concentrating on this risk reduction officer position is going to help us move forward as a city. So, nothing further.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. I'm not sure who got in first, Mr. Radke or Mr. Yanez.
I'll give it to Mr. Yanez if you want.
Mr. Yanez.
Yep. I have a few questions. So through the chair to Assistant Chief Allen. Oh, you're sitting in the chair. Wow. So just to be clear, before you were Assistant Chief, you were Fire Marshal, right?
That is correct, I was.
And how long were you Fire Marshal?
Roughly 3 years, I believe.
And then you were Inspector before that?
Yep, yes, sir.
And for how long?
2 years.
So about 5 years you've been inspection division?
Give or take, yeah.
All right, so, okay, so you got a lot of experience.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, the correct answer is yes. This is very fascinating, and I'm very hopeful of this position. Going through the documents, there's a number of things. You know, first of all, I'm curious as to if the fire marshal's position that you held at one time, was it normal for you to sort of mentor the inspectors, knowing one of them may become the fire marshal, and how did you go about doing that? And will this change with the new position?
So it was part of the job is to mentor the new upcoming inspectors, but this will change the direction because now the way the MOU is written is that the community risk reduction officer, if they plan on being the fire marshal, they move to the fire marshal position. So that's why the assessment center is, instead of being at the fire marshal's position, is now going to be at the community risk reduction officer. So they will do an assessment center like I did as a fire marshal. So there will be a change. And because of this change, there's much more education that's required for the community risk reduction officer. So our next marshal will have quite a bit more education than the previous fire marshal does right now.
Perfect. And it says here that the community risk reduction officer is going to establish some various programs. I know when I was at the fire department, we had a number of training programs, ranging anywhere from going into businesses and teaching people how to use a fire extinguisher to going into schools and teaching kids fire safety. Are those the type of programs we're looking at, or are we looking at different kind of programs?
So education is a facet of the community risk reduction officer. They will, it's defined by risk. So as this person gets in the position and they see that let's say we have a lot of falls that are starting to happen in our senior living facilities, they're going to develop a program for the risks that they're seeing. We still do some education in the lower levels. Our engine companies go out all of October and do education for everybody who wants it. We still offer some education for businesses. We have a fire extinguisher program. If they want it, we'll go out and do that. We do the fire, I believe it's a babysitter program that we're still involved in. But this would be driven by the need of the community. So whatever we see happening at that time is what will drive that. So if we see some fires down maybe at the south end of the city, they don't have smoke alarms, this position would be to organize the smoke alarm drive. That's the idea of this.
So collecting and analyzing data was mentioned multiple times in the document. So is this, give me an example of that. I think what you just said is probably what you're looking at, but tell me what kind of data that you're going to collect and how you're going to analyze it and how you're going to use the data that you've analyzed?
So we do our reporting to a system called NFIRS. That's a national fire reporting system, which is actually changing. But there is a way for, there's actually a class that is put on by the National Fire Academy that is specifically for community risk reduction officers to get data out of NFIRS, which is something that most firefighters don't spend time doing. They don't understand that there's this giant nationwide system that you can pull data out of. Part of the requirement, the education requirement, is to go to that class for this person. And they're going to learn how to pull information for our city out of the NFIRS system, and then the new system that's coming out, the nearest system. They'll be able to pull data out of there, which is something we don't spend a lot of time doing. At the operational side, they'll go on runs, and because there's 3 different platoons, we don't always see a trend between them because they might not be talking to each other. This person should be looking for those trends if we're seeing certain high-risk habits that are going on. So I can't tell you exactly how it's going to happen because I haven't been to the class, but I know that the class is coming up next month, and we have 2 people that are going to it.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like the community risk reduction officer is going to be very busy. They're going to be collecting and analyzing data. They're going to be setting up these programs. I'm assuming they're the ones who are going to be putting the program on. They're also going to be adjacent to the fire marshal, so they're learning that job as well. It sounds like this person is going to be extremely busy.
I would hope so.
You would hope so, okay, all right. Maybe there's too much there for one person?
There's, well, as everybody on council knows, there's a lot that is fire prevention takes on. So I was always asking for people. I still ask for people. But this is the start of us getting into getting more inspections done because the community risk reduction officers, one of their first job is going to be to do a community risk analysis. So they were going to start putting all our businesses into groups, into boxes by their uses and their occupancy for high risk, medium risk, low risk. And that way we can determine how many businesses and buildings that we got to get to within a year, within 3 years, within 5 years. And that's one of the first things that this officer is going to be developing is what's our risk in the city? So we have a better idea of, I know we have 28 302 sites. We have like 58 sites that report chemicals to us, but what's going on everywhere else is what we have to get a better idea of what's going on. That will be the first thing this community risk reduction officer does. So we can have a plan to move forward to go, and I know you're going to ask about general inspections. That's the plan, right? To start, to have something that we can go ahead and use to get general inspections done.
Okay, so we are, thank you for bringing that up, because we are lagging far behind in general inspections, correct? We went through this period after the Great Recession where we were down to 1 fire marshal and 1 inspector trying to handle the whole city, and we've never really caught up. We have buildings in the city that have not been inspected in over a decade, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you know how many buildings?
No idea.
We have no idea.
I don't know.
All right.
That's part of that's part of the problem here that we're trying to find the solution to.
And the fact that we don't know, these buildings haven't been inspected, we don't know what's in these buildings, and it could be something incredibly dangerous, right? We could have like a Clinton Township incident.
That's
here.
always a possibility.
Always a possibility.
We are always trying to, believe it or not, we do find some of these buildings, when we get into them for a complaint, we go out there. And so it's not like we're not inspecting our buildings, because we are. We do almost 2,000 inspections. The issue is we're doing them on a complaint basis. So we're getting, somebody will call and say, hey, we know these things are at that business. We'll go and check it out.
So you're saying we're reactive, not proactive?
We're definitely a reactive organization on that side, yes.
All right. And so once this person's in this position, they're collected all this data and analyzed all this data, and we're establishing this new program, how long do you think it'll take before we catch up to every building in the city that needs to be inspected?
I can't even give you a good answer on that.
You can't?
No.
Ballpark?
So we need to identify our higher risk buildings. We're going to start doing those right away.
Okay.
Those we'll spend our most time getting those done, and that's the occupancies where we have people that are sleeping at night or buildings that have a lot of chemicals. We start with those, and we move to the lower risk buildings, which are the restaurants, the assemblies. We'll start doing those, and then we go to the very low risk at the very end. We have to determine a procedure on how we get to these buildings and how many people we need to do that. And this person is going to develop that risk assessment for us.
Can you tell me how many buildings in the city that the state is responsible for inspecting?
So the state technically is responsible to inspect all the schools. They're technically responsible to do hospitals, jails, nursing homes, any type of surgical center, and what else? Oh, assemblies. So they're technically supposed to be doing assemblies, which the state has not done any assembly or school inspections and since, I don't think they've ever done assembly inspections since Public Act 207 went into effect. They just can't. So it's on us to do that.
Okay, all right. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chief Allen. And, I'll just wrap it up by saying I appreciate the city manager putting up that chart. One thing the chart didn't say is all those departments that have fewer fire inspectors, it didn't say if they're doing unit inspections, which I suspect that many of them are. That's why they can get away with fewer fire inspectors. We can't because we are so busy. There's no way that we'll be able to do it here in the city. And with all due respect, Mr. City Manager, I would never, ever, after what happened in March, use Clinton Township as an example. We had a 19-year-old man die there, and that was horrible. And that building was only inspected by a building inspector, not a fire inspector. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, council. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, just briefly, Mr. Vanderpool, and I think the assistant fire chief really answered my question, which was how this would work as part of the rank structure of the department. But I'm fully in favor of this. I think that we are going to have a top-notch department, and getting more training before they become the fire marshal can only help in the long run. Because it's hard to build the plane and fly the plane at the same time while you're trying to learn at the same, all the whole way. So I think this is a tremendous addition to the department, and I'm glad that the fire department worked in good faith with us to make it happen. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else? If not, council, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief Allen. Appreciate your presentation and your responses tonight. Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. All right, that concludes that portion of our agenda. We'll move on to communications from citizens. Anybody, Mr. Bauer, you can be first.
Good evening, Jim Bauer, B-A-U-E-R, because she spelled it wrong in the minutes. Couple questions. I was looking at the charter 7.07, the duties of the city attorney, and his job is to advise the council on legal matters if they have a legal question. The last meeting on the 20th, Mr. Yanez asked if they violated any laws, and Mr. Mayor said no. He acted as a legal advisor capacity at that point. I don't think that's in the description. And then he gave a directive to the attorney to answer no, which I don't think is part of the job either. But anyways, then Mr. Koszewski answered no, whether he was going to say no or not, we don't know. But he referred to, they didn't break any laws because they built above the floodplain, but that wasn't my question. That wasn't what I was getting at. I was talking about the floodplain areas, Article 16. So if you look at this table, okay, floodplain areas is defined by using the FEMA maps, okay? So if you take this table and take this depressed area here, the outside edge here is where, let's say, the BFE or base flood elevation is, okay? And anything below that is the floodplain. Now, the floodplain area uses the same maps, however, they use the border to describe an area, just like a lot. On your property, you have a definition of the boundary of your lot that is at the grade, but it also has an invisible wall that goes up. So anything in that area up to what federally regulated airspace is part of your area of your property, okay? And this is my point, is that you approving putting residential buildings in the floodplain area, it doesn't matter if it's up here. It's still within that area that's defined by the border of the FEMA map. And that's my whole point, is that specifically 16047 states, I'll read it to you again, floodplain area shall be restricted so as to prohibit any structure wherein human habitation may be provided for either a place of residence or employment. That's your ordinance, not the state law, it's not the federal law, it's the city of Sterling Heights law. And this is where I'm telling you that you violated the law by approving those residential buildings within the floodplain area. Not the floodplain, but the floodplain area. And throughout your ordinance, area, region, territory, district, they're all basically synonymous. So if I would use Mr. Koszewski's analogy that, you know, you're building above the floodplain, but you're still in the floodplain area, even though it's elevated above the floodplain, okay? So if you're gonna tell me still that doesn't matter, then my hand is not technically in this room area because I'm above the floor, which defines the area of the room, or I'm not in the table, area of the table because it's above the table and not within the area of the table. This is what I'm getting at. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bauer. Anyone else on communications? Mr. Nelson?
Ken Nelson, Fire Steel Drive, Sterling Heights. I handed out, or I had this city clerk hand out some information that I ran across in the last couple of weeks. It was from an article in CapCon, and I'm sure you all know what that is. But it was entitled, Salem Township Uses Public Resources to Push Road Millage Renewal. There's a bunch of snowplows, had nothing to do with it. But they also printed out an excerpt from Michigan compiled law, section 169.257. It's part of the Michigan Campaign Finance Act, and it's an excerpt. I wish to read right now, there's certain sections, I'm not going to read all of it because I don't have the time. 169, section 169-257, contributions, expenditures, or volunteer personal services, prohibitions, communications referencing local ballot questions, violation as misdemeanor and penalty. A public body or a person acting for a public body shall not use or authorize the use of funds, personnel, office space, computer hardware or software, property, stationery, postage, vehicles, equipment, supplies, or other public resources to make a contribution or expenditure or provide volunteer service, personnel services that are excluded from the definition of contribution under section 4.3. And like I said, this is an excerpt. This subsection does not apply to any of the following. There are 7 items. There's only one, since it's my time, that I wish to bring right now. It says the use of public facility owned or leased by or on behalf of the public body if any candidate or committee has an equal opportunity to use the public facility, like putting a sign saying no. Part 2, except for the election official in the performance of election officials' duties under the Michigan election law, I'm not going to read all of that, a public body or a person acting for a public body shall not, during the period 60 days before an election in which a local ballot question appears on the ballot, use public funds or resources for a communication by means of radio, television, mass mailing, or pre-recorded telephone message. If that communication references a local ballot question and is targeted to the relevant electorate where the local ballot question appears on the ballot. Number 3, a person that knowingly violates this section is guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable. If the person is an individual, by imprisonment for not more than 1 year, or a fine of not more than $1,000, or both. And also, Section A set a fine of not more than $20,000. A fine equal to the amount of the improper contribution or expenditure. I wasn't even going to get up here until I got this. This is part of a mass mailing. We're being deluged with information positive to passing this ballot question coming up November 5th. I respectfully ask that you withdraw all marketing as of right now so we don't have to go any further with this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nelson.
You're welcome.
Anyone else under communications from citizens? If not, I'll close that portion and go on to reports from city administration. Anything tonight, Mr. Vanderpool?
Nothing further, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Koszybski, anything?
No closed session tonight.
Okay, I'm going to just jump in real quick. I don't think I told Mr. Koszybski how to answer. He has a lot of integrity and perhaps even more than I do. And he's not going to lie just because his client tells him something. I answered no because that's my strong belief that we did not do anything wrong. I will tell you, I reviewed your email that you sent, and I reviewed it in great detail. It's lengthy, and I appreciate that you're very thorough and passionate about this, and you come up here and you speak based on what you believe to be the facts, and I don't think you're operating in bad faith whatsoever. I've reviewed that, and I typed out this long email to you, and then I deleted it. And then I typed out this long email to Mr. Koszybski, and I deleted that too. And I asked, can we get an opinion about this? And Mr. Vanderpool chimed in, and he said he would like Mr. Koszybski in his office to prepare a legal opinion regarding the issues that you brought up. So that's forthcoming. I haven't talked to Mark about it since, but I assume it's coming. And I think, to your point, I'm going to wait for my attorney our attorney, I should say, to opine, but I did review the section. And so I think it's 1604E that talks about building residential structures in the floodplain area. So it's specifically referencing if you're building a residential structure in the floodplain area, it has to be 2 feet above. The base has to be 2 feet above. So I don't really understand your argument that you've got the floodplain, which extends in 3 dimensions, and including up, and the floodplain area, which is just essentially your argument 2-dimensional, that our ordinance says you can't build in the 2-dimensional floodplain area, yet in that same ordinance section that you cite, it very specifically talks about if you're building residential in the floodplain. It's like 1604E 1, 2, and 3, and 1 and 2 are very much on point, talking about building up in the floodplain area. So I don't think that a court would interpret the ordinance the way you are, since it's specifically referencing building up above where the floodplain limit is, so that it would stay out of the floodplain. Additionally, 1600, which talks about the intent of the ordinance, is that we're not going to build anything that negatively impacts the amount of water, the reservoir area, I believe is the term that's used. And we had multiple engineers come up and talk to us and state on the record that phase 1 of that building will not only will it not negatively impact the amount of water that can be stored, it will increase the capacity, the reservoir capacity. So I think it's within the intent of the ordinance. I think the ordinance speaks to building up in the floodplain area to build residential, which is what the phase 1 and phase 2 did. So I had this long email typed out where I was going to say that to you, but look, it's not my bailiwick, as they say, so I'm going to let Mr. Koszybski handle it, and we'll certainly share that with Mr. Bauer.
No.
Well, I can share it if I want, and maybe I will. Am I allowed to share it?
A legal opinion to?
Yeah,
If we vote to release it.
Everybody votes to.
the whole council has to? I'm a client, what happened, the client gets to decide what the client does with the legal information.
The city is the client.
Well, I'll share,
He's not your personal lawyer.
I'll share enough of it with you, Jim. So that'll be forthcoming, and then we'll talk about it then, okay? I suppose we're gonna need another legal opinion as well. Look, I'm gonna say this about Mr. Nelson, about the comments that you made. So it's a public body or person shall not use funds, personnel, office space, et cetera. This subsection does not apply to any of the following: the production or dissemination of factual information concerning issues relevant to the function of the public body. And I think that by providing relevant factual information concerning the issues relevant to the functioning of the public body, that I think we're protected from that. And I shouldn't say protected from that. I don't think we're doing anything wrong. We're providing factual information. There is an election. There is a question on the ballot. If you vote yes on the ballot, here's what you're going to get. If you vote no on the ballot, here's what you're going to save. That's pretty much it. And I haven't used this soapbox to promote one way or the other. I know some council members have, but I think even that's protected by the expression of views by an elected or appointed public official who has policy-making responsibilities. So I think I could do that if I wanted to, but I don't want to right now. That's all I have right now. Council, anyone else? Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You stole some of my thunder.
Purposely.
Yeah, clearly.
Thank you.
First, I will advocate for the millage because I can. Because the expression of views by an elected or appointed official who has policymaking responsibility is protected. But none of the information the city sends out uses words in favor or against the millage. Through the chair to Mr. Koszubski, it's my understanding that both federal law and state law recognizes certain terms and phrases as being advocating for or against an issue or a candidate, correct?
That is true.
And when we send information out to the residents of our city who are voters, do we make sure that we aren't violating those rules?
Yes, and to just clarify that
Please.
real quick, the article that was attached to this talks about another community. I don't want to weigh in whether or not that community violated anything, but they were asking residents to vote yes, for example.
Right.
And that is something I would advise against.
Correct. I completely agree. I do not think we are in violation. I think that this is what communities do. They give the factual information to the voters, and the voters get to make a decision. They decided to support safe streets. They voted to support recreating recreation. And I think that they're going to make the smartest decision here too, but we give it to the voters. That's what the Headley Amendment instructs us to do. We have to give it to the voters to make a decision. So I'm happy to do that. As to Mr. Bauer's contention, I keep thinking of an analogy I made the other night, which I think is just as apt now. Under his reading of our ordinance, essentially, we were talking about Hawaii. He's saying Hawaii is in the Pacific Ocean, therefore people live in the ocean. That's not what we're saying. Hawaii is an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, therefore people can live there. I believe that our ordinance allows us to build in the floodplain, not us, but allows someone to build in the floodplain if they elevate it out of the floodplain, just like Hawaii is elevated out of the Pacific Ocean. Otherwise, you couldn't build there because people would die. It kind of, I feel like people are playing gotcha here, and I think it's silly and it's counterproductive, but I'm happy to vote to release that legal opinion because I'm sure it's going to be fine because we've not violated. And that's belied by all the buildings and structures that currently exist on North Van Dyke. Hendrickson's Golf Course, for example, or golf driving range, the Zap Zone, the apartments at Riverland, and they all exist in this area that is floodplain area. But once it is built above the floodplain area, it's no longer in the floodplain area. So it's just like turning things on its head. There are people here who read just enough to do damage, or they think they got it right, and then they repeat it ad nauseum. It's just silly. So with that, I know that some of us are going up to the MML conference in the coming week. I can't wait to hear from my colleagues across the state on just ideas for future governments. I always feel like MML is a great place to exchange ideas and learn about all the smart things that other cities are doing. Then tell people when they always ask about all the great things we're doing here in Sterling Heights. So I look forward to that. And with that, I yield, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else?
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt?
thank you. Speaking of MML, a lot of my colleagues are going next week, and yes, we do all look forward to going and interacting with our counterparts in other communities and learning from them and them learning from us. But also, I would like to mention that our own Mrs. Zarko is being named the 2024 Jim Sinclair Exceptional Service Award recipient. And as we all know, Mrs. Zarko has brought back a plethora of knowledge to the city in how we can look for money and change some ways, and gives us a lot of ideas on how we can make ourselves better around here. And actually, I'm honored to say that Mrs. Koski has also received this award in the past, and Mr. Vanderpool. So as a community, we're pretty darn lucky to have exceptional service award recipients in our community, because not every community has that. So we do have the best of the best. So I want to congratulate Mrs. Yarko, and I look forward to celebrating your award next week.
Thank you.
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Council, anyone else? Mrs. Zarko?
Oh, yeah, well, first of all, thank you, but you have to understand that the last time I got a service award was when I was a senior in high school, and I remember that, it's like, oh my gosh, all these years later, a couple of years later, but you don't, it's not about the award. It's about the people that you meet, it's the people that you help, and it's the people that work with you. And that would be anybody sitting here. Whether we agree or disagree or how it works, the award comes back to all of us. It isn't just about me, because I couldn't do it by myself. You give me opportunities to be able to serve, whether it be here at the library or in the church. So those are things that I'm grateful for. So, I don't have my speech prepared for next week, so I can't tell you anything else right now.
AI.
AI, yeah, I'll do AI. But here's what, yes, yeah.
It was good.
Thank you.
But here's what I really want to talk about tonight. And we all know that there was a horrible accident on 15 and Shaner, and this one was, I was in my basement when it happened. I had my house painted. The painter's saying, Barb, are you in the house or are you in the basement? I was in the basement, so I didn't hear that, the accident. So I went outside, and at first I saw 2 cars sitting there. So I went back to get my phone so I could call 911, and the next thing I went to do it, and there's 4 cars out there, and it was a tragic accident. This is the 3rd one that's been on the side of my house in probably 2 years. The last one was on Christmas Eve, where somebody got hit in the trunk when they had a trunk full of Christmas presents, and part of them were Legos, and they ended up all over the street. 2 nights ago, I believe, or 3 nights ago, there was a single car accident that went through a fence, probably 350 feet north of where I live. But it just so happened somebody went through that fence a year ago. So I talked to all of my neighbors today, and I come to find out that the person that lives across the street from me actually works for MDOT downtown. Part of her job is, her division actually reviews cameras for MDOT that are placed on the expressways to analyze accidents that happen on an expressway. So when we were talking, she says Macomb County is probably analyzing this accident right now, if there's a camera that's on the corner. So here's what I want to, find out if we can get some information is, first of all, we do have areas in the city that have serious accidents. What would it take to get a camera installed in some of these areas for the purpose only of accident investigation, so that instead of hearsay or witness accounts that might vary, you could actually see what happened? Now, this accident happened just before 3 o'clock, and I left my house at 6:30 to come here. The cars were still in place, the road was still closed, and we must have had 5 police cars out there still trying to piece together how this accident happened. So I don't know if the county does this, but I certainly would want to see if we could help, first of all, our police department piece together an accident like this. And just for the purpose of analyzing those accidents. I'm not saying that it's Big Brother or anything like that. It's just that I think it's a tool that we could use in some of the areas of our community so that we can be better for it. And that's it. And again, thank you. I'll think about all of you next Tuesday when I get the award. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarco.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Yanez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple things real quick. I know originally in the city manager's report tonight, we're supposed to get the greenhouse gas carbon emissions footprint report. That's been postponed. Do we have an idea, through the chair to the city manager, do we have an idea when we're going to see that?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Yanez, I have received the report last week. I'm reviewing it. I expect to send it out to City Council in the next couple of weeks and look forward to your feedback.
Very good. And then to follow that up, I know we're also waiting for a report on the fire department. I'm just wondering what the status of that is.
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Yanez, a community risk assessment, I think is what you're referring to. We have met with the consultants led by ICMA and a number of their sub-consultants, if you will. I expect by year end, we'll have the final report, if not sooner. I think the lion's share of that report is now complete, and I think that report will also be incredibly helpful to the new community risk reduction officer. So I'll look forward to that. I hope we have it wrapped up here in the next, by year end, for sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Manager. So I'm just going to say this. I mean, fair is fair, right? And I know the city is spending a lot of money promoting the millage. I don't know that they're keeping track of how much money is being spent. Oh, well, there you go. That's a good question. Through the chair to the city manager. Are we keeping track of how much money we're spending informing the citizens on the millage?
Yeah, I was going to say it's none on promoting.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But I don't want to answer for Mr.
Informing, yes.
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Councilman Yanez, as you know, whenever the city council votes to approve a ballot initiative, in other words, put it on the ballot, city council simultaneously is directing city administration to provide as much factual information as is possible to make sure that voters can make a very well-informed decision to vote either yes or no. And as you know from past ballot initiatives, we have almost entirely relied on in-house sources to provide that information. That is a job of our community relations department. They provide public information. They're very good at it. They do it every day. It's part of their job. We also have in-house capabilities to produce material. It could be an insert. It could be signage. It could be the like. So in almost all cases, we produce the vast majority of our public information and public education material with in-house resources. If we had to use external resources, we would have to come to City Council for anything above $10,000. Thank you.
Okay, so the answer is no, we're not tracking those costs. Okay, so look at, this is almost too clever by half, right? The city sends out a video on YouTube, you know, with the drone flying over. You're going to have this, that, and the other thing. We've got all the pictures out here. You know, you're going to have the pathway. You're going to have this. You're going to have that. You're going to have all these things. And the placard out front, which I took a picture of, says, you know, pathway, play and preservation, vote, shape the future of Sterling Heights. Well, as, you know, Look, I only have an associate's degree. I'm not as smart as, other people up here. But I will tell you, that is implied that if you want to shape the future of Sterling Heights, and if you want all this, you're going to vote yes. It is implied. It's cleverly implied, but it is implied. So nobody's saying vote yes, nobody's saying vote no, but they are implying if you want to change the future of Sterling Heights and get all this, and I'll just leave it at that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yanez. Anyone else? Mrs. Kosky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment tonight, the presentation of the special project by Utica Community Schools, I think it's really fantastic. So through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool, I know in the past we have had interns throughout the school year that have worked for the city. This is when we had lots of extra money and we were able to hire them and pay them. Could we possibly work on putting that program back together again and concentrate on like maybe the seniors that are looking for a career but don't know which way they want to go? If we can offer the clerical, or I should say, not Parks and Rec, but the other side of employment for interns to get a taste of what it's like in city government, whether it be the police department, fire department, your staff, clerk's office, treasurer's office, and maybe we can work on preparing our future employees. That would be something that I would like to see happen. And also it was mentioned that we have different companies that work with the schools, and I recall, I think it was, I can't remember which principal it was, our superintendent said that they wanted to reinstitute that program at Utica Community Schools where they would reach out to businesses and let the seniors or the ones that graduate kind of come in for a apprenticeship program where they would send them on to college for training. Like, let's say someone wanted to become a welder. The school would help them meet with a manufacturing company where they could learn welding. They would work for a certain period of time and then go to school for a period of time. Is there any way that we could look at the businesses that we have in Sterling Heights and see if they would be maybe willing to partner with Utica Community Schools if they have put that program back into effect? I think that would be a good way that we could help out our schools and, again, looking for future employees. Thank you.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Schmidt.
Mrs. Kosky, maybe I can help you here. I know Warren Consolidated Schools, at Career Prep Center, we have, and at the home schools, there are some CTE programs that do work-based learning. And those students, during their school day, will actually go to paying jobs. I'm sure Utica Schools has the same thing. So that's already in place through the school systems. So I'm not sure what you're asking for.
I'm asking for some more to be done.
Oh, okay.
Because one of my grandsons graduated from Stevenson, and he got put into a program with a company where he learned how to weld. He worked for the company for a certain week, I think it was 1 week on or 2 weeks on, and then 2 weeks in school, home community schools. But when things got a little tight, he got laid off, so that ended the program. So what I'm saying is sometimes we don't have enough of those manufacturers, those companies that are really aware of the program. The superintendent, the principals of the high schools don't have the time to go out and search for these companies. All I'm saying is if we as a city government have the ability to make contact with some of our manufacturers, doesn't have to be a program that we go out there and hit the streets and do it, but have the opportunity with conversations with them, say, would you like to be a partner with Utica Community Schools since you're located in their district? Not taking anything away from Warren Con, but do in Utica what they do in Warren Con, because my son went to that school and he was a horologist. So I'm well aware of what Warren Consolidated School does.
Yeah, well, but to piggyback on that, and my son was in an apprenticeship program through Macomb. So Macomb does have partnerships with manufacturing businesses, and it was a paid apprenticeship, and he's just getting ready to graduate. But they have a plethora of resources for manufacturing positions that do paid apprenticeships as well.
So it'd be a waste of our time.
No, I'm just saying there are a lot of resources out there, and there are a lot of manufacturing companies that are willing to take on these apprenticeships because, truth be told, the federal government subsidizes the pay to the employees. So it's incentivized to the companies to take on these apprenticeships and work with them, have them work and build their professions. I just didn't know if you were aware of that, that's all.
Oh, I am.
Okay.
Yes. So with that said, well, maybe we should just concentrate on getting them employed here and we can train our future clerks and city clerks and treasurers and whatever we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Koski. Mr. Vanderpool, it looks like you wanted to jump in. Anything to add, or?
Well, Mayor, those are all good ideas, and I appreciate Councilwoman Schmidt's comments on the topic because she's right. The two school districts do a lot of programming in that respect. Having said that, I think there's always an opportunity to strengthen that partnership some and see where the city can help out. And we meet weekly. On Thursday, I'm meeting with Ford Motor Company and Stellantis representatives to talk about numerous issues, and I'll certainly raise this with them. You're right. We are in touch probably more than the high schools in this regard with our businesses. So to the extent we can, help them in any way where they need help. We also work with Michigan Works to connect with younger folks looking for opportunities in apprentice programs and the like, and obviously the community college, which is, incoming seniors into their program. So I think your comments are well taken. Be happy to take a look at it and see if we can come up with some additional ideas.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Koski. Mrs. Sarowski.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. So I just wanted to reiterate, because it was at the beginning of our meeting and it was just mentioned and then so much else happened since, that we do have the recycling town hall on the September 18th. And it did mention that it was specifically, but not completely, for the multifamily complexes. So just for residents and anyone interested to go through again the recycling. I know that there's some questions. What's recyclable? Is it the plastics? Is it plastic bags? Is it just cardboard? So please remember that is over at the city center, or excuse me, at Department of Public Works, September 18th. It's from 4 to 6. So that is extremely important. The reason I say this is because I don't know if I've mentioned it before. If I did, bear with me because I'm going to repeat myself. That when I was working the polls on the primary election, I had a resident come up to me. Did I say this before? Don't know if I did, because I meant to say it. And it was a resident, former Sterling Heights resident, who moved out of the city. He had come before us, and he was really adamant that this was not going to work. We were just going to waste our time, and it felt that if we had this big recycling program, it was just everything was going to go back into the landfills, and it was just going to be silly, and we were just going to have all this redundancy and pollution, and it was going to waste our hurt our roads because there was going to be all these trucks going back and forth, multiple trucks. And I had to tell him, I said, sir, I'm so sorry that you felt that way, and I do remember you. And I have to tell you that the recycling in this city has boomed. And we found a recycler that is actually dividing up in Troy that's really sorting through our recycling, and they're appropriately using the recycling, and we're making good use of the actual recycling items. And I don't think he really believed me, but, I'm sorry to see that for him, that we are really doing, I really believe, a great job. Truly see 90% of my neighbors who did not have the recycling bins for the most part. There was maybe 10% of my neighbors had the recycling bins previous, and now it's 90%. And they, to T, they're full. Sometimes they're open, they can't even fit all their boxes and their things in there. So I think that this is really important. I am a convert. I would take things occasionally to the recycling centers in our city, but now that I have the bins, I am thrilled. As I've said before, yes, Amazon's boxes are in there mostly, but that's still, whatever goes in, goes in. It's appropriate. So I'm very happy about that. What I also would like to ask through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool, do we have a program yet for any of our really big manufacturing businesses? And I'm thinking about Ford and Stellantis and all of the big manufacturers. What do we have going on for their recycling?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Surowski. We've talked about this some in the past. It's very difficult as you move into the commercial areas beyond multifamily complexes to mandate or suggest recycling. It becomes very difficult to enforce. But more importantly, in a lot of those cases, especially our large manufacturers, their recycling programs are very robust. They recycle a lot of their scrap metal, they recycle their paper, they have, in many cases, best practices when it comes to recycling. So with thousands of businesses, over 4,000, it would be difficult for the city to step in and audit them, if you will, and review them and see if they're sufficient or not, or recommend ways they could improve. That'd be very difficult, but it is something we've talked about. I think for businesses, smaller businesses that are looking for some recycling options, we try through our public information efforts to make sure they know about all our cleanup days and recycling days that the county has available as well for hazardous waste sites and the like. So maybe there's more we could do there, but in terms of recommending an ordinance that the city council could consider, I think that'd be very difficult.
No, I appreciate that. No, I wasn't really suggesting ordinances. I was thinking of just more what was offered and what we had going, if there was a partnership that we had going on with them. I do appreciate that. I know that there's, even in my small area of business, we do a lot of recycling on our own, and we do paper shredding and all of that, so I just appreciate seeing what we were able to do with that. And truly, that's all I have. I'm looking forward to MML. Going up north is going to be a nice time of year to go up there, so looking forward to spending time with my colleagues and all of the other people in other cities of the state of Michigan. I don't always go on a lot of these trips, but this one I'm looking forward to, so I thank everyone in advance for allowing us to go, residents, and hopefully we can bring back new ideas, some different approaches, refreshed views, and so we'll see you when we get back. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Surowski, and council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.